The specialist system is a new addition to the Call of Duty franchise and may or may not have been ripped straight out of Destiny. Not accusing anyone, but Treyarch did admit there were some huge Destiny fans on the team, and for good or worse, they've implemented this system that at first had people worried, and I think they were worried about how balanced this was going to be in the end, and it seems like those worries can be put to rest because personally I think the system is fine. Because during the beta they revealed all but one of the specialists, and there wasn't that many problems to the system in general. You wait until your ability or weapon charges, and then you use it in the best way you can. And then you just repeat the process all over again. If you got killed while you were using the weapon or ability, you just had to wait for it to recharge again because you lost it. There was no holding on to it or anything. The more objective minded players would fill up the charge bar quicker, thus getting more chances to use it than the ones who didn't really do anything in the game and just camped at the back of the map. In theory, this system sounded good, and I really like the fact that it actually works as well in practical application. As for the specialists themselves, this is where it gets a bit different, and I'll go through each of the specialists and kind of give you my thoughts on them. We'll start off with Donny Walsh, whose call sign is Ruin. This was actually the specialist that I saw the second least, bearing in mind that I spent most of the beta actually playing Domination, so that affected a lot of things. His choice of weapons are the gravity spike, which has a large area of effect and it pretty much kills anyone inside it. I didn't actually find it too useful for me, even though you think it'd be useful when you're clearing out enemies trying to capture your flag, and it was pretty much a free kill. It pretty much acts as like the Titan from Destiny and his Fist of Havoc, I think, yeah, Fist of Havoc. Yep, what I found a lot of the times was only one person was either capping the flag, or in the event there were more people, the flag just got captured before I could get anywhere near in range to use the gravity spikes. I imagine the spikes see a lot more usage in a game mode like Hardpoint or Safeguard, where the very nature of the game mode requires a large number of people to hover around or remain in close proximity of a particular target. Again, his speed boost ability, which, increases his speed, obviously, wasn't used much, but I imagine in a game mode like Capture the Flag and Uplink, you'll see a lot more usage. Even in the other game modes, it's not as if it's completely useless because it allows you to get the choke points quicker, you can flank the enemy quicker. Basically, while it's not as exciting as other abilities, it still has very viable practical applications. Ruin just seems to be the specialist that is for beginners, and I've no issue with that whatsoever. Next up, we have Alessandra Castillo, whose call sign is the Outrider. I probably pronounced that wrong, but her weapon is the Sparrow, which is a bow that fires explosive arrows, and I hate this weapon. Not because it's bad, but it's just because I couldn't do anything good with it. There's nothing wrong with it, though it is frustrating to be put into those situations where you're shooting and you suddenly go flying back and explode into giblets. It's kind of obvious when someone is equipped by it, so it should rarely catch you by surprise. Her ability Vision Pulse for me is very well balanced, despite it pretty much being like the Oracle from Ghost or the wallhack UAVs from Advanced Warfare. Yes, you can see people through walls for a limited time and they do show up on your minimap, but you know what shows up on their side? A ping on the minimap which tells them the range of the vision pulse and how long before it actually scans them. And what I like about that is that it gives you the chance to get out of its range before it scans you, or you can just locate exactly where the outrider is if you're smart enough. It did catch a bit of a nerf in the beta, but nothing too serious, just a decrease of range. I think this is going to be my choice of ability, especially in those smaller maps and those less open areas of the larger ones. After all, knowledge is power. The first specialist I chose in the Xbox beta was David Wilkes, whose call sign is Prophet, and for good reason. His weapon Tempest is a cannon that fires bolts of electricity to kill the enemy in one shot. It's not unlike the Sparrow, however, while the Sparrow might blow the enemy up and deal explosive damage, the Tempest actually electrocutes them. There's also potential for the electricity to arc to another enemy should they be within range of the previous victim, and to be honest, there's not much to say about it. I think it's balanced enough as it stands. In return for some electric fun, you do lose most of the aim assist, so your accuracy has to be on point. And there's also a delay when pressing shoot and actually firing the weapon, so there is a small charge up time before the weapon actually does fire. so you have to be a little bit accurate and skilled in leading your shots, but it's really satisfying when you do that. His ability, which by the way he didn't originally have, is glitch, and the person who actually had that ability originally was Reaper, but circumstances brought the ability to the transhuman instead. Glitch is an ability which pretty much teleports you back into an earlier time. It sounds broken when it's stated like that, but I assume that's the reason why people went nuts over it. But I think a lot of people just kind of jumped the gun here. It's not as if it wasn't going to be balanced. You know, Treyarch are pretty good at balancing stuff. And it wasn't as if there was going to be no limitations or anything like that, because for starters you can only go back a limited distance, plus there is an audible cue for anyone that's nearby, and on top of that there is a blue streak showing the path that they use when they glitch out. What do I think of it? I like it, but it's hard to get a good use out of it. What I saw from people were they were going to glitch instantly as soon as they ran head on to an enemy, which for me is kind of a waste, because you could have just gone into that situation and actually just done it right the first time. Where I feel glitch is actually really useful is if you're running and you're getting shot from behind. If you glitch, there is a possibility you might end up behind them, and that's, for me, is a perfect use of glitch. And I'm also reminded about this in the trailer. There is a part where the Reaper has, when he originally has the glitch, he jumps into the waterfall in Hunted, and someone tries to shoot at him, and then he uses the glitch, and then he teleports back behind him, and then just pretty much kills him. And it's an oh so satisfying moment. And for me, that is a brilliant use of glitch. Moving on to Erin Baker, whose call sign is Battery. Her weapon is pretty much the War Machine, which pretty much acts like the War Machine in Black Ops 2. There's not really much to say about it. It's not overpowered or anything like that. Yes, people don't like noob tubes, but I think people need to be grateful that it's been reduced to just a specialist weapon and not an actual weapon itself. So there's not really much I can say about it, except, you know, it performs the same way. It's pretty cool. It's going to be great for hardpoint, domination, those sort of game modes. Gets you a free kill. Her ability, the kinetic armor, I didn't really use that much, but from what I have seen from people, it just does not look that good. I mean, the intention behind it was to have bullets, you know, disappear when you actually shoot the actual kinetic armor, and you have to go for headshots. But from what I've seen from people, I've seen a lot of people just die straight away, even when they've been shot in the body. So I don't know. That could really do with a bit of a buff. Then we've also got Zen, whose call sign is Seraph, and her weapon, the Annihilator, is really pretty much the same as the Tempest and the Sparrow, except it doesn't deal explosive damage, it doesn't deal electricity damage, it's just the regular pistol. It's a one-shot kill, doesn't have aim assist, just like the other two weapons. The unique thing about this weapon, I'm not sure if I'm correct on this, but I believe it can actually penetrate. So if you have a team of 6 enemies lined up, which is going to be very unlikely, you can just shoot the first enemy and the bullet will actually travel straight through every single one of them. I don't really have any complaints about it. I'm not going to say it's brilliant. I'm not going to say it's bad. I do think that it is severely outclassed by her ability, which is not the vision pulse, that belongs to someone else. Her ability, which is actually the combat focus, which acts like a hardline. So what it does is you activate it and you get a temporary hardline effect. So let's say you kill someone and you get 100 points. If you kill someone with the combat focus on, you get an additional 100 points, and so forth. This definitely might be something that I'm going to use a lot more often, especially now that Rejact is nerfed. I think my problem with it is more something to do with myself, and that's trying to find the ideal time to use it, because sometimes I hold it on for a little bit too long, just waiting for the perfect moment to sort of take full advantage of combat focus, and that probably contributes to why I think it has a long charge up time. And that's probably because, like I said, I hold on to it for a little bit too long. I'm using it for the correct time, and when I do use it, I'm like, oh, hurry up, I want to use it again. But aside from that, I do think combat focus is definitely something that nobody complained about. It was very rare that any of the YouTubers or anything like that, they did not really put in any complaints about it. Next up, we have Tavo Rojas. I can't roll my R's, so yeah. Whose call sign is Nomad, and his weapon is the Hive. And while it's very good, it's a very sort of fire and forget weapon, and it's good because it allows you to block certain choke points. But I know that some people hate it because it's the equivalent of firing claymores, but in its defense, it shows up with engineer, it can be shot down, it's very visible. It's not as if it's terribly overpowered like the Tempest or whatnot. Um, as for his ability, a lot has been said about it, and how Rejack worked is it's pretty much as soon as you go down, it's like Last Stand, except it's not like Last Stand. You go down, you activate Rejack, and then you come straight back up. There's no, there's nothing weird about it. You just get straight back up. You're back into the gunfight, and it allowed you to keep your streak alive, so you could just keep on going. But when they nerfed it, they removed that aspect of it, and that's what a lot of people just did not like, because it effectively made Rejack pointless. Because why is anyone going to use Rejack now to protect your KDR? Nobody really cared that much about it that they're going to choose a specialist just to protect their KDR. I mean, yes, you do lose out on the merciless medal, whatever it is, the bloodthirst, whatever medal it is that you get at 30 kills, nuclear, that's it. But I don't think that people care about it that much. I know that it got nerfed because a lot of YouTubers complained about it. I mean, even Vonderhaar himself, he said that Rejack wasn't supposed to work like that. It was kind of cutting into the combat focus ability a little bit too much, but I don't know if I truly believe that. I mean, personally, I thought, you know what, there's green smoke. Okay, you could have made it a little bit easier to see through, but there's green smoke. You kill someone, there's green smoke. He's clearly going to use Rejack. Yes, it kind of disrupts the flow, but what other ability doesn't? You got double points if you killed them twice, which was more than you could say for any other specialist. And personally, I just didn't think it was as bad as the other abilities. I mean, you've got a weapon, sorry, not a weapon, an ability that lets you see through walls, an ability that lets you teleport through time, and you're going to complain about this? I don't know. I mean, I know there was a complaint that, okay, it's annoying if the whole team's using Rejack, but so? It's annoying if the whole team's using Sparrow, but that doesn't mean you people are going to complain about it. But anyway, let's move on from Rejack. After all, next up we have the experimental war robot Reaper, whose choice of weapon is the Scythe, which personally I thought was very good. It absolutely dominates people. It dominates choke points. It's good. The downside of it is very loud and it's very visible. So, but then again, that's the same could be said for any other weapon as well. Um, if I had to nerf it a little bit, I would say maybe tone down the speed of movement, because you're slow, but it does feel like you could be a little bit slower to actually give it an actual penalty. But either way, it's definitely a lot better than his ability, which is the Psychosis, and that is just underwhelming. You send out 3 decoys and they kind of just run around doing their own thing, and to be honest, it's going to be good at the start of the game, but it's like magic tricks. They're only effective the first time. Once you know how it works, you're not going to be fooled by it again. It's like the old saying goes, fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice, you can't get fooled again. Sorry, I just had to throw in that George Bush quote there. Um, Moving on. How would actually not moving on. How would I improve the Psychosis? To be honest, there's not really much you can do to improve it. It's just you kind of have to use it very well. Um, yeah, so truly moving on now. We've got the Spectre, who's has the Ripper as his weapon, and personally I found that fun. If you treat it as a panic knife, if you treat that as a weapon when you ran out of ammo, that's when you can really get good usage out of it. I think personally this weapon would be great on Favela. It's a small, tight tight map, and in fact any small tight map it will be great on, but the open maps not so much. How would it be improved? It's not really much to you can do to improve it. I think the situation is you don't want to have completely overpowered weapons, but you don't want to have completely underpowered weapons. And the way I see the Ripper is it's very situational, but it's a situation that pops up very often, so it's not entirely bad. As for the active camo, that is just absolutely terrible. It doesn't last long. I know that they buffed it so it lasts 7 seconds, but it's still not that great. It might be useful in game modes like search and destroy, but aside from that, it's just not that great. Especially as soon as you fire, you come out of invisibility. Anyway, all in all, I think the specialist is great, and I think people will actually enjoy this a lot. There's no complaints. I think people will gravitate towards their favorite specialist, and they'll not have a problem recognizing other specialists and understanding how it works. But yeah, that's really about it for this video. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourself and keep being you.